Hello and welcome to today's student information session covering the Dual BSB50120 Diploma of Business and the BSB50420 Diploma of Leadership and Management. With me today, I have Chief Academic Officer Ina McKinney. Ina, welcome.
Hi James, how are you? And welcome to everybody attending today.
Excellent. So we hope you get plenty out of this session, irrespective of what forum you're actually watching us on. But it's a really, really exciting course, and the application that we're seeing to the many and varied roles for this particular dual qualification and the sort of job growth and desire out in industry for individuals with these sort of skill sets is not high at the moment, but it is high at the moment, but on top of that is really continuing to grow. So I'm really excited to be talking to everybody about this particular course today. Now, with that in mind, let's jump into a bit of a course outline, Ina, and I'll hand on over you to talk to us about some of the key points of the course.
Thanks, James. So the Dual Diploma of Business and Diploma of Leadership and Management is the most recent version of these courses. And here at Mentor Education, we deliver these with an option for students to take up the dual qualification. So they really are great courses when we're working in a business or we want to, but we also have leadership and management responsibilities, or we're going to have that in the future as part of our career development. So the course itself covers a number of topics that are really pertinent to what we do when we're in those leadership and management roles. So we look at administration, communication, critical thinking, business planning, sustainability, risk management, key human resources functions such as recruiting staff as well as managing staff. And we look at that from both a human resources perspective as well as a human capital management perspective. We know that out there in the world of work that critical thinking skills and analysis and business analysis and problem solving skills are really being sought by employers. So as much as possible, we've actually also looked at those key skills and knowledge that employers are actually either actively developing in their staff or they're wanting to develop as well. So as I said before, the course is really quite broad in terms of those commercial, business and leadership functions that are relevant to organisations and what the organisations are really looking for.
Excellent. And I think what's really nice, particularly with the dual qualification arrangement, is that starting perhaps, say, with the Diploma of Business, you get a really good understanding of those fundamental business skills, knowledge and competency, and then from there can really start to build on that skill set and the tools which you establish throughout that Diploma of Business, and get a bit of a sense as to perhaps the values and roles and, of course, some of the applications that leadership can have, and certainly also so the management side there as well when it comes to running and operating a business.
Most definitely, James. The other thing that we do have built into the course is emotional intelligence too. We know that as leaders and managers of staff that and teams and even business units that we need to be able to approach what we do in such a way that we are behaving in a positive way and a supportive way, and actually supporting people to achieve. So emotional intelligence is a key skill that, and practicing that is a key way that we actually incorporate what we do and our requirements of people in our organisations, and how we actually get our message across and motivate people, for example, and set KPIs and so on and so forth. The course itself, when we look at it from a human aspect, is really supportive of ensuring that what we're learning in the course we can take into the workplace to support our teams as well. Because often we study leadership and management because we're wanting to make a positive change in our workplace, or we're wanting to learn how to implement organisational change and manage change, and emotional intelligence is part of all of that, of course. So those key business skills such as business planning and risk management are necessary for every business to undertake. So being able to also contribute to that process and understand that process and manage that process is really part of the key context that we work in as leaders and managers.
All right. Now, with that in mind, let's have a bit of a deep dive into the actual individual qualifications themselves and the units that make up those qualifications.
So, as I mentioned before, you know, we in the dual qualification we take up those two dimensions. So we look at business per se, and business operations and organisational structure and things like that, as well as the leadership and management aspects of what we do, and it all comes together. So we can see here that the unit, the first unit that we've got listed is communicate with influence, because when we're in a workplace, we're often presenting proposals, we're presenting new plans, we're communicating with teams, individuals, and communicating with influence is really important to the communication process. So we also look at critical thinking, which again is part of that leadership and management provision that we undertake. Leading and managing those workplace relationships. So we can see how these themes are actually occurring in the course. Then we've got business and operation, managing business operational plans. To be able to interpret operational plans and update them and create them, for that matter. Operational plans are very, very necessary, especially when we have businesses that might have multiple product lines, for example, and we need to look at different business units and how they're operating. So really important. I mentioned emotional intelligence just before in depth. So the emotional intelligence unit, of course, goes hand in hand with critical thinking and effective workplace relationships. So it's the aspect of human capital management and developing our leadership skills. So team effectiveness, budgets and financial plans, of course, are very, very important in every business context. So how do we create budgets? How do we interpret financial reports? And how do we actually create our plans? And how do those feed back into our operational plans? So again, we're looking at the operational aspect of the business as well. Managing business resources, communication, sustainability is very, very important now and going forward in most organisations, and how we approach sustainability and what it actually means to the context of the organisation that we're working with, and how we can become more sustainable, which is very important, of course, for not just for the business but for the world in general. Then we have our elective units that or add additional dimensions to what we've been talking about with those core knowledge and core skills in the core units. So our electives are again, some are related to our operational aspects of business and what we do as managers and leaders in businesses. So we look at developing administration systems, because administration systems make up everything we do. We have customer relationship management systems, financial management, financial information management systems, sales systems, accounting, so on and so forth. And also our day-to-day communication is undertaken as part of those systems. So again, we're building on that operational aspect of a business. Innovative work environments, of course, goes into everything else. Project work is part of our role in any organisation as managers and leaders. We're often asked to lead projects or implement projects. So undertaking project work is a day-to-day part of quite a number of roles. So we take a deep dive into project work, and we actually create a project for an organisation and all of the documentation that we'd be expected to create. And then, of course, we look at coordinating human resource functions and processes. So the course is very balanced, and it in terms of business and business operations, but also how we take all those things that we know about business and business operations and how we implement it as part of our roles on a day-to-day basis.
Amazing. Look, I think, there's really sort of one thing sort of to take away from this, is that there really is that emphasis on that soft skills, the emotional intelligence, the human capital and the human resources. And why, in my opinion, that's so valuable at the moment is that we're finding that, in many respects, business systems can be automated and replicated, but one thing that can't be is human beings and talent. And then so being able to have the skill set to put you in a position where you can manage that talent and effectively lead and get the best out of it really does give you a competitive edge. And that could just be within your workplace or within the sector as a whole, certainly as an organisation. And that's probably where I think a lot of that demand for individuals who can demonstrate such skill sets is coming from, because they are looking for that competitive edge. And that really, in many respects, is going to come from getting the most out of the talent that you have available within your organisation. And heading on over to some of the applications of this particular course and the industry sectors themselves. So purchasing and procurement, advertising and marketing, business administration, consulting, public administration, logistics and legal administration. Now, these, of course, are just some of the industries that it could apply to. But going off the back of what we've already discussed, I mean, really, the imagination really is the limit when you sort of think of the type of industry sectors where these skill sets would apply. And then we go a little bit deeper into occupations such as managers, practice managers, operations managers, warehouse managers, project consultants, even compliance managers. And we know certainly the compliance sector is growing and continuing to grow at the moment. So even being able to take those skill sets into that compliance and auditing and sort of accounting sectors as well has true value. What I did certainly this morning was head on over to Seek and have a look at just a couple of examples of the type of jobs where these sort of skill sets are certainly in demand and may apply. Just a sort of a really generic one was the business administrator. Now, we've got a really sort of good average salary there of 65,000, but what was really interesting to take out, Iona, was that we had a job growth projected over the next 5 years in excess of 9%, which really kind of highlights the demand for that ability to kind of manage a workspace and manage the people within it. Communications, we've talked a lot about, and certainly influencing those around you, and whether it be a sales manager or a sales team leader or anybody sort of in one of those business development roles, we know those communication skills are crucial, not just externally, we say with clients and things like that, but also internally with the rest of the team. And again, seeing good job growth there and a good average salary of 85,000. And project coordinator, and the project management space is continuing to grow. And has done for the last couple of years, and that's certainly predicted to be the case in the future. And the average salary, again, there of $85,000 really is, illustrates that point, I think. So, and again, you sort of think to that project coordinator role. Well, yes, you have sort of, resources and budgets to manage, but again, managing the people and processes and human capital within a project itself, and of course, influencing them and leading them and being able to manage that process is crucial. And again, that's where a course like this, particularly with the units that we've talked about, can become really, really useful for somebody perhaps already in a project management role or looking to move into it or whatever it may be.
Look, but without doubt, we know that we've got a real shift to remote working, for example. So those communication skills and those business administration skills that we've looked at, but also those higher level business administration skills, and the systems as well, looking at systems as well and innovation. All of it comes together because, again, our workplaces are changing and evolving. So all of these things really feed into what business operations and administration is going to be going forward. And our approaches to all of those challenges with remote teams as well, because we're finding that more and more organisations don't just have staff on site in a central office and maybe some satellite offices, but the satellite office has become a virtual office. And so we have people working remotely as well as people present in office spaces or different business contexts. So the course itself is supports both our traditional business operations as well as developing those skills that we acknowledge to actually implement systems for remote working as well.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, and I think, leading and managing teams in this environment is, an evolving skill set, really, because it's something that's been happening, certainly in the last 2 years, and is, a lot of thought leaders, a lot of organizations are doing a lot of research into this space, because it really is going to sort of set them apart over the next few years when they're in a position where they really think they've got on top of what it means to manage and lead people, particularly in a remote working environment. And of course, one of the benefits that they're receiving out of it is that not necessarily just working with, say, a local talent pool, but an international one as well, and being just as effective as somebody on the other side of the world as you are, say, based here in Melbourne, where we are, or anywhere else in Australia. Now, the learning materials of this particular course, there's a couple of, I think, really exciting elements, certainly for some students who might already be working in organisations compared to those who aren't. Talk to us about some of the learning materials, Ina.
So the learning materials for this course, depending on, because they do vary from unit to unit, and so the learning materials for this course are comprised of a wide range of different types of learning materials, because again it is a very wide-ranging course in its topics. So some units have textbooks, but all units have learning guides or readers for students. There is self-directed learning activities in all units of study. A number of units have video embedded and thought leaders and with thought leaders. And we also, for this course, have live tutorials as an option for students to take up if they so wish. And we very much encourage students to take that opportunity to have that live online classroom experience with their educators and their trainers and their tutors each week. So there are two live classes per week that are made available for students to take the option up. Within those live classroom options, there is the opportunity for discussion and group tasks and research reporting, for example. So that is also present in the course. There's a number of examples that are provided for students so that they're able to download and retain. As well as the usual learning materials of assessment guides, as I mentioned before, learning guides, activity booklets. What else can I list? Audio files for students to listen to, podcasts and audio recordings, and there's a range of other materials as well, such as PowerPoint presentations. So the learning materials are quite extensive for the course. And students are provided with real-world case studies, for example, for problem-solving activities. So we know that the experiences of business in a current context is incredibly important to our learning process, because we want to take the most current knowledge we can out into our workspaces and into our future careers. So there are, for example, case studies from that centre around organisations like Google introducing new systems or sustainability. So quite exciting, the extent of the learning materials for this course. And as I mentioned before, we do encourage all students to take up the option of the online classroom based sessions as well.
And look, what I really love about the learning materials, and probably may have even dipped into them myself from time to time, when it comes to drawing up internal documents here, but just how closely aligned they are to real world scenarios. And then I think it might be organizational policies or business plans or things that you develop as part of the course that you can very readily take directly into industry. And the feedback that we get from students, particularly those who have graduated, is just how closely aligned the learning materials that they've been exposed to throughout is what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And then I would say to those who are considering this course, you're going to complete the course, you could very easily step into a role with a high degree of confidence, knowing that you're going to be in a position to kind of take on that challenge very, very readily. Because I know certainly with a lot of people, when they're taking on new roles, they're doing a qualification, there can be a bit of a knowledge gap between perhaps what it is that you've learned with inside a formal learning institution to what you actually do in a day-to-day workplace. But what we work, I think, really, really hard on is making that transition as smooth as possible. And that's very much reflected in the learning materials themselves.
Oh, very, very much. So, what's a good example I can give? So, lead and manage change. So, when we're leading and managing change, we often need to communicate change. We need to develop a change management plan and then a communications plan. And then the materials to communicate whatever change or opportunity it is that we've identified. So part of our real world learning as in that particular unit is that we do develop those documents. And we do that throughout the unit, and we practice doing that. And as much as possible, the tasks that students are completing, both as self-directed activities as well as assessment activities, are actually leading the students through the process of being able to develop those true workplace documents. There was something I didn't mention, James, which is a little unique to some of our courses here at Mentor Education. Students that don't have access to a workplace, for example, are able to access our simulated businesses. So here at Mentor Education, we have a number of different simulated businesses. So students are actually able to utilise the simulated business, access templates, policies, procedures, links to legislation, and be able to use that to, for example, create projects for, or access HR policies or something like that that is directly related to what they're learning. So they're able to see what the document would look like if they were in a workplace. So students are of course always able to choose between whether they utilise their workplace or whether they complete their study and their assessment tasks with the simulated business. So as I said before, it's something unique that we have here at Mentor Education, and nearly all of our courses have access to a simulated business, so students can actually practice even what they're wanting to do.
Yeah, great pickup. And of course, simulated business available sort of online through the web page, so you can jump in there and get access to kind of anything and everything you need to perhaps fill that gap if you're not currently working in an existing workplace. Now, very much an extension of the learning materials themselves is the assessment function. So we've obviously got a number of assessment functions here, but all of them won't apply to every single unit, which we had a look at earlier on. Obviously, without giving too much away, or certainly none of the answers at this stage, talk to us a little bit about what we might expect throughout the assessments.
Okay, so here at Mentor Education, we like to consider your a student's assessment as a continuation of learning. So as we get to the end of each unit of competence and what we've studied and what we've done in the self-directed learning activities, we pose some assessment or we provide assessment tasks to students in the form of an assessment guide or a learner assessment pack. Now, in your learner assessment pack, you will come across some but not all of these in each unit, and it does differ from each unit. So you might be asked to complete some short answer questions, some long answer questions. There might be an essay, a research report. There might be a presentation. There might be handouts. There might be flowcharts. You may be responding to case studies and scenarios. You may actually, for example, in the administrative systems unit that we were talking about before, you may actually undertake your assessment in that unit as a project where you create a business use case for an administrative system, you create a presentation about the system that you've chosen and a feasibility study for implementing that system as part of your project tasks. So that's just an example. And what we see here on the screen is by no means the list of all of the different types of assessment tasks, but commonly you would come across 2 or 3 of these in each different assessment.
Excellent. And look, probably just a point to make is that there's no timed exams or any sort of high pressure scenarios like that, is there?
No, we actually have no examinations in any of the units in this course.
Okay, amazing. So far we've had a look at a bit of the course background. We've done a bit of a dive into the application within industry and the certain roles. We've looked at the units themselves, the learning materials, and then, of course, the assessments. What I thought I'd do is just talk about how that's all brought together by way of the online learning experience. So what we make available to students is the learning management system, or the LMS, as you'll come to know it. And that's made available through the student portal. And through logging in there, you get access to anything and everything that you need in order to complete the qualification. So that could be links to external learning materials. Learning materials that are directly provided with the course are also available inside there. Your assessments, all those key requirements in order to complete the course are made available through that single student portal. And one of the other great things, of course, about that is being online. You can access it 24 hours a day. So make it fit in with you. We have students from very wide and varied backgrounds, full-time workers, shift workers, people overseas, whatever it may be. So we're finding that particularly when taking on further education these days, it's really kind of a matter of making it work with what you've got going on in life at that point in time. And it could be looking after a family full-time, it could be working full-time, it could be doing both of those things and still throwing in study on top. So being able to access the learning management system via the student portal just about any time or 24 hours a day is really, really beneficial for those who are looking at doing it that way. So what do you need to get access to it? Well, a strong and reliable internet connection, certainly for the learning management system. Of course, then you'll be able to download all of your assessments, your readings, and then upload your assessments when it comes time to have them marked. And then the other thing is the online virtual classroom-based tutorials, which is a really great opportunity to engage in a live forum with your educator. So you can sort of talk through the course material itself, get a bit of a deeper understanding, and perhaps even workshop some of the points that come up in the learning material in a bit more of a discussion-based forum. And if that's a learning style that works for you, it can be really, really beneficial. And I know I get a lot out of those kind of forums. The other great thing, of course, is that sense of connectivity. And we've talked a little bit about remote working today. But with remote learning as well, and particularly online learning, it's nice to feel connected to the education institution that you'll be working with. And it could be 12 months or, with a course like this, essentially we'll be working together for basically 2 years. So to have that sense of connectivity and being able to build those relationships in a bit of a face-to-face forum, albeit virtually, is really, really nice. And I think another thing that comes out of that is that sense of accountability. So particularly when you have sort of self-directed learning and you're very much left to your own devices, having that sense of being connected, make sure that you kind of stay on top of your work throughout that period of time. So you don't kind of have a 1-month hiatus between, completing one assignment and then doing the next. It's kind of a nice gentle reminder to kind of stay on top of things. And of course, the other thing to come out of that is that ability to build relationships with other students who are also in your cohort. So we work very hard in making the online learning and classroom experience as close as possible as we can to what it would be like to kind of turn up to class in a face-to-face environment. So, there is an opportunity perhaps to have a discussion with other students inside your class there as well and formalise perhaps some of those professional relationships that can be beneficial now because, again, you're getting to meet people who are going through a similar experience to you with online learning, but also down the line, so that way you've got that professional relationship. And it might be that you come up against a question in a role and you don't quite have the answer to, but you know what, you've got a classmate from one of your units that you do with mentor education. You can pick up the phone, give them a call and say, look, I've just rolled out this change initiative. We've got this person overseas. I don't know what's going to be the best medium to let everybody know. Do I use Teams? Do I use email? What's your thought? Whatever it may be. And they might be able to provide you some feedback and sort of help you along the way. And that's very much, I think, what education and ongoing professional development is about these days. So in summary, internet connection and also a laptop or desktop computer. And on that, you're going to want to have a browser. So Chrome, Firefox, your Mac equivalent, or whatever it is that you use. And then through there, of course, you'll be able to get access to anything and everything you need to take advantage. Now, the course duration, 24 months, plenty of student support throughout Iona, not just from the education advice team, who will, of course, speak to you about the course itself, provide you any information and more, perhaps on what we talked about today, discuss career goals, where it is you're currently at, what is it you'd like to do. We've also got the student support team dedicated to helping all of our current students, so setting up appointments, perhaps booking extensions for courses if you need them, troubleshooting the learning management system, all those kind of things are available. And then we've also got the dedicated training, assessment and education team there as well.
We certainly do. So students in our courses here at Mentor are able to take up a number of supports, if you like, that we make available. So students are able to book a one-on-one session with the student support team, for example, for orientation to the learning management system. They're also able to book one-on-one sessions with the trainers, educators and tutors for the courses, or for the course that they're studying. And then there's our whole range of We Know Life Happens supports as well. So we do understand that studying online can make us feel lost or stuck at times. So students are able to directly call the student support team between Monday and Friday between 9 and 5, or they're able to directly email service at mentor.edu.au to request support via email. So having said that, there's also a range of other supports that we provide. So it may be that life has got in the way, and one of our students may not have finished their course, or they're wanting an extension to their course because there's been some event. We here at Mentor, we don't charge for resubmissions and remarking, and neither do we charge for the one-on-one support sessions and the orientation sessions to the LMS. Students are also able to call in between 9 and 5, 9 a.m. and 5 a.m. Monday to Friday, and request to be able to speak to an educator or a trainer for their course. Now, of course, educators and trainers are available as often as they possibly can, but they may be teaching. So we just ask students to be patient when if they call in. And our student support team will make a time with the student for them to be contacted. So as I said before, there is a very wide range of supports available to students here at Mentor Education. We're also able to provide printed learning materials depending on the course of study, or at least learning materials in PDF for students on request. And charges for those learning materials does vary, so it varies from course to course. So if any student is requiring printed materials, they just need to make an inquiry with the student support team. So as I said, there's a very, very wide range of supports, and I probably haven't mentioned 2 or 3 of them.
No, look, you're absolutely right, and there's so many different types of support available. And look, if you've got any questions, certainly speak with your education advisor. They can go through all the details, and then of course, once you're a student enrolled, contact our student support team. And there's a whole lot of other resources that we've got ready to make available as well. Links to resources and organisations that can provide remote support when studying and things like that. So there's certainly plenty available, and we know that student outcomes are a key thing that we keep in mind. And in recognising, I think, as I said earlier on, the way in which people are studying these days and fitting in anything and everything around, it really is a bit of an, I think, informal policy of ours, in that we know life happens, we'll work around you, and of course, let's work as a bit of a team to work towards the particular outcome of completing this qualification and taking that next step. Now, Number of questions that we often get asked. First one is, can I get government funding? And the short answer to that is no. So all of our courses are self-funded by students. But that said, we do have payment plans and options available. So if perhaps the upfront enrolment fee is a little bit too much to manage at a certain point in time, we do have payment plans and options available. And I'd encourage you to speak with the education advice team who can go through what options are available to you with respect to that. You can start at just about any time. Okay, so what we'd like to say is if you can get enrolment through to us, we'll usually have you up and running on the learning management system within a 24-hour period, and of course weekends by first thing Monday morning. Everything is included. Okay, so there's no additional textbooks that you need to purchase. There's no additional fees for assessments or anything like that. Anything and everything that you need to complete the course is covered in that enrolment fee for you. The between study options. Now we've talked about the tutorial virtual classrooms today. There is, of course, an option for students who would like to go completely self-directed and not take advantage of that. But really, as a rule of thumb, we do recommend students take advantage of the tutorials, particularly in a course like this, where it is about business and leadership and management, and that interaction, and certainly in my opinion, is crucial to really get the most out of a course like this. So if you're kind of sitting on the fence, definitely go for the tutorials. Course is nationally recognised in all states and territories around Australia. It's an open entry course, but we do recommend that you have some reasonable degree of, say, language, so English language and numeracy skills. But again, if you've got any questions about that, or you're not too sure, speak with the education advice team and they can certainly answer any questions there. And how long do people usually take to finish? Well, the prescribed time for this particular dual qualification is 24 months. Now, it might be that you dedicate a little bit more time each and every week and you may finish a little bit faster. Or, as we said before, life happens and you need to put the course on hold for a couple of months. And therefore, you won't be able to obviously work throughout that period of time. So it may take you a little bit longer. But really have that time frame of 24 months in your mind. Student outcomes are of crucial importance to us. We know that our course materials are really, really closely aligned with what students are finding themselves doing in the workplace. And this is very much reflected in the sort of feedback that we're getting from students on a year-to-year basis. Talk to us about some of the numbers we've got up here in front of us, Ian.
So these are our student outcomes for 2020. Our student outcomes we haven't released yet for 2021. So today we're just going to talk about them as a guide. So one of the things that we know here at Mentor Education is that our students really do enjoy the level of support that they receive. And to my thinking, and I've always really liked to share this with everybody, because it's what our students say about us. So 92% of our graduates were employed or enrolled in further study after training with us here at Mentor Education. 91.6% of our students were satisfied with the overall quality of training, and 90.2% of our students were satisfied with their assessment, and 86.5% would recommend Mentor as a training provider. So what we see here is, as I mentioned, what our students say about us, and it really demonstrates our commitment and our high level of student support for all of our students here at Mentor Education.
Excellent. And finally, if you'd like to enrol in the course or you'd like to learn more, I'd encourage you to head on over to the website. So mentor.edu.au. There you'll be able to find the Dual Diploma of Business 50120 and the BSB50420 Diploma of Leadership and Management course page. You can download a course guide, so to have anything and everything that we've talked about today, plus a little bit more. Otherwise, email our education advice team directly at courseconsultant@mentor.edu.au. Or if you'd like to pick up the phone, 1300 306 146 between 9 and 5 Melbourne and Sydney time, and ask to be put through to one of the education advice team members, and they can certainly go through the course with you. Now, if none of those work, also on the website, we've got a live chat function that's looked after by our education advice team based here in Melbourne. So they can actually chat in live real time with you as well. So if for one reason or another you can't pick up the phone, feel free to jump on the web page and do that. For those who've got your smartphones handy, scan that QR code and that'll actually take you directly on over to the dual qualification course page where you can get everything that we talked about today. For those who are tuning in on YouTube today, I'd say if you get a chance, make sure you like and subscribe this particular video, and that way you'll be kept up to date with any updates that we've got coming through, not just on new courses, but labour markets, statistics reviews, updates, Industry 4.0, all that kind of stuff, of course, is regularly coming out on our channel. Iona, thank you so much for helping us out today.
Thank you very much, James, and I really look forward to seeing everybody joining us in the Dual Diploma.
Excellent, and thank you to everybody who tuned in. We look forward to seeing you as students very soon. See you later, everybody.
Bye, everyone.